This will be from the chapter entitled Chameleon. As apartheid was coming to an end, South Africa's elite private schools started accepting children of all colors. My mother's company offered bursaries, scholarships for underprivileged families, and she managed to get me into a school called Maryvale College, an expensive private Catholic school. Classes were taught by nuns, mass on Fridays, the whole bit. I started preschool there when I was 3 years old, primary school when I was 5. In my class, we had all kinds of kids, black kids, white kids, Indian kids, colored kids. Most of the white kids were pretty well off. Every child of color pretty much wasn't. But because of scholarships, we all sat at the same table. We wore the same maroon blazers, the same gray slacks and skirts. We all had the same books. We had the same teachers. There was no racial separation. Every clique was racially mixed. Kids still got teased and bullied, but it was over usual kid stuff, being fat or being skinny, being tall or being short, being smart or being dumb. I don't remember anyone being teased about their race. I didn't learn to put limits on what I was supposed to like or not like. I had a wide berth to explore myself. I had crushes on white girls, I had crushes on black girls. Nobody asked me what I was Trevor. It was a wonderful experience to have, but the downside was that it sheltered me from reality. You see, Maryvale was an oasis that kept me from the truth, a comfortable place where I could avoid making a tough decision. But the real world doesn't go away. Racism exists. People are getting hurt, and just because it's not happening to you doesn't mean it's not happening. And at some point, you have to choose, black or white. Pick a side. You can try to hide from it. You can say, I don't pick sides, but at some point, life will force you to pick a side. At the end of grade 6, I left Maryvale to go to H.A. Jack Primary, a government school. I had to take an aptitude test before I started, and based on the results of the test, the school counselor told me, you're going to be in the smart classes, the A classes. I showed up for the first day of school, went to my classroom, and of the 30 or so kids in my class, almost all of them were white. There was one Indian kid, maybe 1 or 2 black kids, and me. Then recess came. We went out onto the playground, and black kids were everywhere. It was an ocean of black, like someone had opened a tap and all the black had come pouring out. I was like, where were they all hiding? The white kids I'd met that morning, they went in one direction. The black kids went in another direction, and I was left standing in the middle, totally confused. Were we going to meet up later on? I did not understand what was happening. I was 11 years old, and it was like I was seeing my country for the first time. In the townships, you don't see segregation because everyone is black. In the white world, anytime my mother took me to a white church, we were the only black people there. And my mom didn't separate herself from anyone. She didn't care. She'd go right up and sit with the white people. And at Maryvale, the kids were mixed up and hanging out together. Before that day, I had never seen people being together and yet not together, occupying the same space, yet choosing not to associate with each other in any way. In an instant, I could feel how the boundaries were drawn. Groups moved in color patterns across the yard, up the stairs, down the hall. It was insane. I looked over at the white kids I'd met that morning. 10 minutes earlier, I thought I was at a school where they were the majority. Now I realized how few of them there were compared to everyone else. I stood there awkwardly by myself in no man's land in the middle of the playground. Luckily, I was rescued by the Indian kid from my class, a guy named Thiessen Pillay. Thiessen was one of the few Indian kids in school, so he noticed me, another obvious outsider, right away. He ran over to introduce himself. Hello, fellow anomaly. You're in my class. Who are you? What's your story? We started talking and we hit it off. He took me under his wing, the artful dodger to my bewildered Oliver. Through our conversation, it came up that I spoke several African languages, and Thiessen thought a colored kid speaking black languages was the most amazing party trick. He brought me over to a group of black kids. Say something, he told them, and he'll show you he understands you. One kid said something in Zulu, and I replied to him in Zulu. Everyone cheered. Another kid said something in Xhosa, and I replied in Xhosa. Everyone cheered. For the rest of recess, Thiessen took me around to different black kids on the playground. Show them your trick, do your language thing. The black kids were fascinated. In South Africa back then, it wasn't common to find a white person or a colored person who spoke African languages. During apartheid, white people were always taught that those languages were beneath them. So the fact that I didn't speak, though the fact that I did speak African languages immediately endeared me to the black kids. How come you speak our languages? They asked. Because I'm black, I said, like you. You're not black? Yes, I am. No, you're not. Have you seen yourself? They were confused at first because of my color. They thought I was a colored person. But speaking the same languages meant that I belonged to their tribe. It just took them a moment to figure it out. It took me a moment too. At some point, I turned to one of them and said, "Hey, how come I don't see you guys in any of my classes?" It turned out they were in the B classes, which also happened to be the black classes. That same afternoon, I went back to the A classes, and by the end of the day, I realized that they weren't for me. Suddenly, I knew who my people were, and I wanted to be with them. I went to see the school counselor. "I'd like to switch over," I told her. "I'd like to go to the B classes." She was confused. "Oh no," she said. "I don't think you want to do that." "Why not?" "Because those kids are, you know." I said, "No, I don't know. What do you mean?" "Look," she said, "you're a smart kid. You don't want to be in that class." I said, "But aren't the classes the same? English is English, math is math." "Yeah, but that class is, you know, those kids are going to hold you back. You want to be in the smart class." I said, "But surely there must be some kids in the B class who are smart." "No, they aren't." I said, "But all my friends are there." "You don't want to be friends with those kids." "Yes, I do." We went back and forth. Finally, she gave me a stern warning. "You do realize the effect this will have on your future? You do understand what you're giving up? This will impact the opportunities you'll have open to you for the rest of your life." I'll take that chance. I moved to the B classes with the black kids. I decided I'd rather be held back with people I liked than move ahead with people I didn't know. Being at H.A. Jack made me realize I was black. Before that recess, I'd never had to choose, but when I was forced to choose, I chose black. The world saw me as colored, but I didn't spend my life looking at myself. I spent my life looking at other people around me. I saw myself as the people around me, and the people around me were black. My cousins are black, my mom is black, my gran is black. I grew up black because I had a white father, because I'd been in white Sunday school. I got along with the white kids, but I didn't belong with the white kids. I wasn't a part of their tribe. But the black kids embraced me. "Come along," they said. "You're rolling with us." With the black kids, I wasn't constantly trying to be. With the black kids, I just was.
There. Don't you think?
Okay.
Great.
So this is setting up everything really in the beginning of the book. Where most children are proof of their parents' love, I was the proof of their criminality. The only time I could be with my father was indoors. If we left the house, he'd have to walk across the street from us. My mom and I used to go to Joubert Park all the time. It's basically the central park of Johannesburg. Beautiful gardens, a zoo, a giant chessboard with human-sized pieces that people would play. My mother tells me that once while I was a toddler, my dad tried to go with us. We were in the park. He was walking a good bit away from us, and I ran after him, screaming, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy." People started looking. He panicked and ran away. I thought it was a game, and I kept chasing him. I couldn't walk with my mother either. A light-skinned child with a black woman would raise too many questions. When I was a newborn, she could wrap me up and take me anywhere, but very quickly, that was no longer an option. You see, I was a giant baby, an enormous child. When I was 1, you would have thought I was 2. When I was 2, you'd have thought I was 4. There was no way to hide me. My mom, same as she'd done with her flat and with her maid's uniforms, found the cracks in the system. It was illegal to be mixed, to have a black parent and a white parent, but it was not illegal to be colored, to have 2 parents who were both colored. So my mom moved me around the world as a colored child. She found a creche in a colored area where she could leave me while she was at work. There was a colored woman named Queen who lived in our block of flats. When we wanted to go out to the park, my mom would invite her to go with us. Queen would walk next to me and act like she was my mother. And my mother would walk a few steps behind us, like she was the maid working for the colored woman. I've got dozens of pictures of me walking with this woman who looks like me, but who isn't my mother. And the black woman standing behind us who looks like she's photobombing the picture, well, that's my mom. When we didn't have a colored woman to walk with us, my mom would risk walking me on her own. She would hold my hand or carry me, but if the police showed up, she'd have to drop my hand and pretend I wasn't hers, like I was a bag of weed.